The thrill of the long summer break was melting into misery for Katie Medland. The sporting 16-year-old was gripped by a creeping illness she tried to ignore.
We went down to Cornwall for school camp and I began to get stiff. I woke up one morning, my legs were a bit stiff. I didn't really think anything of it because we were lying on the floor and I thought, oh, I know, not used to this sort of thing.
While her friends couldn't wait to dive in the surf and race around, Katie couldn't even manage a walk on the beach. Where had this crippling thing come from?
It was quite difficult to get up in the mornings and that sort of thing, but as I just put it down to sleeping on the hard floor in a tent, and it got worse and worse, and I was getting up in the mornings very stiff, barely able to walk, and then the rest of the day I still was having problems walking properly, and walking for long distances was virtually impossible.
It became obvious that Katie was very poorly and she was very stiff. She took her ages to get up in the morning, and when she did get up she was in a great deal of pain. So we went straight to the GP and he immediately arranged for her to go to see a specialist.
The drugs prescribed worked dramatically, and the next day I was almost able to walk as normal, but then the effects wore off and walking again began to get difficult, and a lot of things began to get difficult, opening cans and things like that, everyday things. My hands were particularly bad. I could hardly pick up a pen. They sort of locked in that position, and it took ages of massaging and bathing them in hot water to even unlock them so that I could straighten them.
It was a painful experience to watch her because everything was so slow. Everything she did was causing her pain. Even with the drugs she was taking, it was obvious that there wasn't much change going on.
This Brentwood teenager was one of the top English table tennis players, the outdoor type, a hockey player, keen on fitness. Her visit to the specialist told Katie Medland she had an incurable inherited disease, psoriatic arthritis, and she was put on a very strict diet.
It was very difficult. There was no red meat, no dairy products, no citrus fruits, you name it, she couldn't eat it. About the only thing she could eat was plenty of cod liver oil and potatoes and rice. And in fact, as a family, we went on this diet just to make it easier for Katie.
I was looking forward to going back to school and thought, oh, maybe by then all the pain will have died down a bit or something. But I realised just before I started school that I could barely write. I tried to write a birthday card and it was practically illegible.
And it was just so awful as a mother to watch your daughter, who had been full of life and full of ability to do things. There'd never been anything wrong with her. To see her suddenly so struck down and so disabled was very, very painful.
Katie in her prime had had great GCSE results, 4 A stars, 3 straight A's and 2 B's. Now, struggling with her worsening pain, she faced the biggest challenge of her young life, A-levels.
I was really beginning to sink under it, just watching Katie in pain, sizing up wheelchairs for her, wondering how much it was going to cost us. While we didn't want to belittle what medicine can do, and we were grateful for it, I knew that medicine couldn't do anything now, and that really our only hope was to go to God.
One Friday evening when I'd put in a prayer request, I hadn't actually been up for prayer, the next morning I noticed a dramatic change. It hadn't actually gone, but I was able to walk round to a friend's house and together we walked into Brentwood, which would have before been impossible. Well, the next Sunday, the Sunday afterwards, I decided to go up for prayer again just to sort of perfect it, and I went up for prayer and came out and I felt perfect, totally healed.
The sum of medical knowledge had failed to relieve her crippling disease, but Jesus made her well.
We had some friends for lunch and they sort of said, prove it, and told me to sit on the floor and stand up again, which I couldn't have done without help before. And I sat down and got up with no problems at all. And that afternoon my mum went out to visit some friends and I went up to school and played a hockey match with my friends and came back and felt absolutely fine. it had completely gone. Within a few hours, I felt fine and it had just gone.
The thing that amazed me more than anything was the speed with which she recovered. One night she went to bed in the same state, still very, very stiff and in a lot of pain. The next day she got up, she walked into town and back. She did things that she hadn't been able to do for weeks and weeks. And it was just wonderful to see her.
Your mum told me, she said, you know, since you were prayed for, it all gone. And you couldn't even walk. Not properly. Okay, but now you can kick your shoes off. Show everyone. Here's someone with sorry. She was sorry about having it. Go on, run up and run down. Let's see. Look, there you are. Isn't that good? There's a good God. You know? And you couldn't do that.
Couldn't even walk properly.
The girl who got her miracle wants to
Isn't
tell
that
the whole
wonderful
world.
to be free?
Katie takes every opportunity, as in this BBC Essex radio phone-in.
Let's have a quick word with a young lady called Katie. She's 16 years old and she has had a miracle. Katie, hello.
Hello.
Thanks for sharing this with us. Now, we haven't got much time, but if you can tell us fairly briefly what form your miracle took.
Well, in July I began getting stiff, and 3 months later I was diagnosed as having psoriatic arthritis, and it gradually got worse, and all the symptoms disappeared completely, and I thought, oh, maybe, I don't know, I'll leave it. But that same afternoon I played hockey, and I was fine, and I've been fine ever since.
So you would definitely say in your heart of hearts that was a miracle?
Definitely.
Katie, thank you very much indeed for telling us about it. I'm sure you're not the only one who's going to have some amazing stories for us today. Thanks for giving us a call.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Katie there, the 16-year-old who, well, do you reckon that's a miracle? Sounds pretty miraculous to me. I think if I wasn't that...
Each of the miracles you've seen has happened in the last 2 years. And I want to assure you that Jesus Christ loves you. And there's a miracle for you if you'll just turn to him with all your heart.